What is going on, guys? Welcome to The Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the Scriptures. My name is Josh, and today I'm going to be going over 10 priority books for the remainder of 2025. Now, it's crazy to me to think that I'm even shooting a video and talking about the end of the year, but the year really has gone by just so fast. And so since the year is going by so fast, I'm going to have to start prioritizing my reading because there are some books that I want to make sure that I get to before the end of the year. And so today we're just going to go over my top 10 for the remainder of the year. Now, that does not mean that these are the only 10 books that I'm going to be reading or series, but it does mean that these are at the top of the list. So without any further ado, let's start with number 10. Number 10 is going to be thrillers. These are different forms of thrillers. I've been picking up different thrillers periodically throughout the year, and I had not realized how much I enjoy reading these. Now, these are just a few of the ones that I have, but I really enjoyed my time with these murder mystery type books. And so I really want to get to more of these, particularly The Silent Woods, maybe a few others. There's a couple by Riley Sager. There's some by Dennis Lehane that I really want to get to because I really love a lot of the Dennis Lehane stories, at least the movies, and so I think I'll really enjoy his books as well. So I really want to dive into some more thrillers because they're a great palate cleanser. They're standalones for the most part, and then they're also like sub 400 pages usually. While 400 pages may not sound like a short book for some people, for those of us in these big epic science fiction and fantasy adventures, 400 pages is a breeze. So I do want to get to more of these thrillers, more of these standalones, just to break up some of the monotony, and they're just fun. It's a good, fun read. They're not overly challenging, and it's sort of like going back to that murder mystery TV show that you love so much. And so I do want to make sure that I prioritize some more of these murder mystery type thriller books. So number 9 on the priority list is going to be indie books. Now, I could not narrow down which ones that I wanted to read, and these are just a few of the ones that have been so graciously sent to me. And so I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing these books throughout the remainder of the year. Since you guys are so gracious to send these to me, I want to get to some of them. And so here's just a few of the physical copies that I've received. I've received so many ebooks, and I really want to get to some of these. They sound like a lot of fun. Some of them have already been, semi-stolen from friends who want to pick them up. I do plan on getting them back and reading them. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into more of these indie books because the indie books that I've read so far, I've really enjoyed. Okay, book number 8 is going to be Stone and Sky by Z.S. Diamani. So Stone and Sky, I think it's the Stone and Sky trilogy, but I read Guard in the Garden early on in the year. I'm currently working my way through Wagons and Wyverns, and those are those two cozy fantasy stories in this world, in this universe. And I haven't gotten to the main series yet. Now, I did start Stone and Sky back in April, and I just wasn't in the mood for it, and so I just put it down because I know that I'm going to love it, but I wanted to wait until I was in the mood to pick it up. And so Stone and Sky is going to be pretty high up on the priority list for the remainder of the year. So book number 7 is going to be sort of a wild card, but I really want to read Demon Copperhead by, I think it's Barbara Kingsolver. I really want to read this book. I've heard so many good things about this book on YouTube, and not just YouTube, but personal friends and friends here on the internet. I've just heard so many good things that this is one of those sort of heartbreaking, heart-wrenching character studies, and I'm really looking forward to that. As silly as that may sound, or as psychotic as that may sound, I really want to get into this book. I've heard that it is top tier. And so I think this is going to kind of fit in a weird, it's going to fill a weird gap that I have in my reading as far as, it's not science fiction and fantasy. It's not necessarily murder mystery. It sort of fits in, at least in my opinion, or it seems like that it's going to fit in a similar way that Boy's Life did to me. And so I do want to get to this by the end of the year, and that's why it's number 7 on the list. Number 6 on the list is going to be a Star Wars book, and it's going to be Star Wars Maul Lockdown. Now, I really enjoyed my time with the other Darth Maul book that I read this year, Darth Maul Shadowhunter. Had a really good time with it. It got me back into reading Star Wars, and since then I think I've read like 4 or 5 Star Wars novels and have enjoyed all of them. I don't think there's been a single one that has been a complete miss for me, but I've really enjoyed these, and I keep hearing how great Maul Lockdown is, particularly from Jonathan Cohn. He talks about how brutally violent, like almost gladiator style fighting takes place in this book, because Maul is sent to this prison, and Palpatine basically tells him that he can't use the Force but get out, because this prison isn't like, well governed. This is, we throw everybody in a pit and govern yourselves, and if you survive, great, and if you don't, we don't really care. And so Darth Maul is thrown into this as part of his training, and apparently he puts a pretty heavy beat down on some folks, so I'm really looking forward to getting into Maul Lockdown. Okay, number 5 on this list is going to be another one of those weird ones that maybe none of you have heard of, but it was a Kickstarter edition that I purchased like over a year ago, and it's going to be Kolchak the Night Stalker. Now, this is a novel written by Jeff Rice. It's another case that he solved. Now, for those of you that don't know, like, what is Kolchak? Kolchak was like an early 80s, late 70s television series where it was sort of like Unsolved Mysteries meets X-Files. And so he's solving these string of murders or crimes, and they tend to have some sort of supernatural tie to them. And most of the time he's dealing with some of your traditional big bads like werewolves, vampires, mummies, Frankenstein's monster, all those kinds of things. I really enjoyed that show as a kid, and so when I saw this book was being released, I had to jump all over it. Plus, it was cheap, and the edition is really cool, and once I read it, I plan to do a full review of it and show off all of the great artwork and stuff that's inside, because it is really, really cool. So yeah, Kolchak the Night Stalker is definitely a priority read before the end of the year. Okay, so number 4 is going to be Pilgrim's Progress. Now, I've had this on several lists thus far, but yeah, Pilgrim's Progress is pretty high up on the list. I do plan to jump into this probably around late November, early December. And the reason is because my schedule, my TBR is kind of stacking up a little bit. I also don't stick to firm TBRs, which is why I don't do TBR videos. But because I don't stick to a firm TBR, I kind of have to very loosely map out what my month is going to look like. And so I kind of know what each month, here's my big book of the month, and then what are some smaller books that I can read in between. That tends to be how I like to read, at least as of right now. I'm still learning too. But because of that, I know that Pilgrim's Progress needs to sit near the end of the year, because I think like late November and all of December, I've just kind of had it to where these are just going to be my fun reads, the reads where I'm not really planning anything and I'm just going to pick something up that sounds good at the time. And I think that's going to be the perfect time for me to sit down with this book, especially because I'll have some time off with work. And so I'm hoping that I will just have a day where I can just sit down and read it from cover to cover. So that's why it is number 4 on the list. All right, number 3 on the list is going to be the Monster Hunter series. Yeah, these are the Monster Hunter International books written by Larry Correia. I've really enjoyed my time with these. I'm currently about halfway through book 3, which is Monster Hunter Alpha, and it is exactly what I have needed and been looking for. These are sort of campy X-Files meets the SWAT team stories. They're really fun. It's imagine, a special forces unit is designed to take out monsters in the world, and all kinds of monsters, some that we've heard of, some that are myth and legend, and some that they've just created on the spot. And there's a lot of like the doom and gloom as far as like, oh, this thing is happening and the world is about to end and we need these people to save the world. It is a lot of that. And if you've seen the covers, which I should have them posted in here, but the covers have that sort of campy old school VHS horror movie-esque to it, and that's kind of what you get, except for it's well done. I definitely think Larry Correia leans into that a little bit, and rightfully so. I know a lot of people, just for instance, have complained about book 3 because we don't follow our main cast, and it's almost like a spin-off because we're following one individual character that was kind of a side character in the story. But man, I have absolutely loved it, and so far I think it might be my favorite, just because of the nature of the book. And for those of you who read it, you probably know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to give away spoilers. But yeah, I really love these books. And so I plan to continue the Monster Hunter International series as my audiobook each month, unless something big comes up, because they're just so much fun. They're not heavy reads. It's just like a fun, good time. There's a lot of action in here. There's quite a bit of like witty and quippy humor, a lot of good banter between the characters. That's all secondary when it comes to the plot is actually really good. Now, I know a lot of people are like, it definitely can't be by looking at the cover. It is. They're fantastic. If you liked the X-Files, if you like Kolchak, if you like those kinds of campier style horror movies, and I would even say if you loved like the old Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser, then you're gonna love these books, because it is very much that and just a broader scope. So rather than just talking about mummies, we're just talking about monsters in general, and so they're just a ton of fun. And so I plan to continue to read these books and throughout the rest of the year. And yeah, these will be a staple in my reading. Okay, so number 2 on the list is going to be The Will of the Many by James Islington. Now, I definitely plan to get to this one next month in September, because I know that his sequel, The Strength of the Few, is coming out. And a lot of people have said, are you going to be ready? Are you going to read The Strength of the Few when everybody else does? I don't really know. Probably not, if I'm just being transparent with you guys, but it's because my TBR is pretty stacked with thick books, and I like having the short books that breaks up that monotony. And Will of the Minis is a chunky book, and I know Strength of the Few is going to be as well. And so I do want to read Will of the Many because I love James Islington. I love his writing. I would definitely want to support him. He's a brother in Christ. But I do really just want to get into this story. I just don't know that I'm going to, pick up The Will of the Many and then go, I'm jumping straight into book 2, because I do have other things on the list that I want to get to as well. But before the end of 2025, I do plan to get to The Will of the Many by James Islington. And so this leads me to my number 1 priority for the end of 2025, and that's going to be Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio. Yeah, the Sun Eater books. I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anybody. As of the time of recording this video, I finished Demon in White last night, and it was phenomenal. It was superb. It was as good as Howling Dark, which I gave 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever, but for different reasons. And I'll make a dedicated review for that book. But I definitely want to continue with Sun Eater, and I hope that I can be caught up for Shadows Upon Time when it releases in November. That is my hope and plan, but that means I'm going to have to read a Sun Eater book at least every month between now and then. And so as of the time of recording this, I finished Demon in White. I'm going to read some of these shorter books, and then hopefully by the end of the month, I'm going to get started into Kingdoms of Death, so that I can be caught up with everybody else. But yeah, that's the number 1 priority for me for this year is going to be Sun Eater. And if you would ask me, what was going to be my main series for the year at the beginning of the year, it definitely wouldn't have been this. And for those of you that don't know, go check out my Empire of Silence video. For those of you that do know, you know that I probably actually would have said this is absolutely not going to be the series that I pick up. But you know what? I can be wrong, and I definitely was in this case. And so I want to show this series the love and support that it deserves, because it is so good. I think it is severely underrated, and that seems kind of ludicrous because right now everybody's talking about it. But even still, Christopher Rocchio is just a master of his craft. So if you guys haven't picked up Sun Eater yet, definitely do so. It is phenomenal if you love sort of that epic space opera. And by the way, he really leans into his Christian perspective on some things. In Demon in White, I definitely think that if somebody is not a Christian and they read it, they definitely would miss it. But for those of us that are Christians and we read it, you can't miss it. So yeah, it's really, really good. And apparently he just kind of tends to lean into that more and more with each book. So really looking forward to that. And that's why it is the number 1 priority of 2025. All right, guys. So those are my priority books for the remainder of the year. Probably disappointing some of you, but I plan to put out another video pretty soon talking about my priority reads for next year. But let me know down in the comment section below, what are some books that are priority reads for you before the end of the year? What are some things you want to get to, or you hope that you can get finished and checked off the list before we wrap up 2025? Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please, please, please share these videos with your Christian brothers and sisters, because I want to be a good resource to my brothers and sisters in Christ, so that maybe we can spend our time, money, and energy on things a little more wisely that honor the Lord. And plus, I just love providing good, clean entertainment for you guys. So yeah, if nothing else, I hope you got that out of this video. But thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.